coin dangling from the string and chanted the phrase over and over. I felt silly. Nothing was happening. I was about to give up when a cold breeze suddenly swept through my room, even though the window was closed. The candle I had lit flickered wildly. The shadows on the wall seemed to stretch and twist into monstrous shapes. The coin on the string began to swing, slowly at first, then faster and faster. It pulled my hand, leading me out of my room and down the hallway. It tugged me toward the living room couch. It swung violently over one of the cushions. My hand was shaking. I lifted the cushion, and there it was, my missing video game. A huge grin spread across my face. It worked. The magic was real. I felt a jolt of excitement, a thrill that chased away all the fear. I had done it. That night I couldn't sleep. The house seemed different. The usual creaks and groans were louder. They sounded less like a settling house and more like footsteps. I heard whispers coming from the hallway just outside my door. They were faint, like the rustling of dry leaves, but they were definitely there. I pulled the covers up to my chin, my heart hammering against my ribs. Was this because of the spell? The book hadn't said anything about side effects. I tried to tell myself it was just my imagination. But the cold spot in my room seemed to be growing bigger. The next day I tried another spell, a small one, a spell to make a flower bloom out of season. I went to the withered rose bush in my backyard, held a pinch of salt in my hand, and whispered the words from the book. For a moment, nothing happened. Then I watched in amazement as one of the dead brown buds began to tremble. It swelled, and slowly, petal by petal, a perfect blood-red rose unfurled. It was beautiful. But as I reached out to touch it, I noticed something else. The grass around the rose bush had turned black and brittle, dead in a perfect circle. The price of one beautiful life was the death of everything around it. A shiver went down my spine. This magic had a cost. The more spells I practiced, the stranger things became in Blackwood Creek. It started small, the fog grew thicker, a permanent grey wall that never burned off, even at midday. People in the village started complaining about the cold, a deep, biting chill that seeped into their bones and never left. Then came the sounds. At night, the whole town could hear it, a faint, mournful wailing that drifted in from the woods. It sounded like someone crying. Someone in terrible pain. The village dogs would howl all night long, their cries joining the ghostly chorus. Everyone was on edge. The shadows were the worst part. They didn't behave like normal shadows anymore. I would see them out of the corner of my eye, detaching from the objects that cast them. A shadow of a lamppost would stretch and bend, moving on its own. A shadow of a person would linger for a second after they had walked away. They were darker now too, a deep inky black that seemed to absorb the light. I saw them everywhere, flitting across alleyways, hiding in doorways, watching from the edges of the woods. They were no longer just an absence of light. They were becoming things, living things. My friend Sarah grew more and more frightened. She told me she was having nightmares of shadowy figures with glowing eyes standing at the foot of her bed. She said she could hear scratching at her window at night, even though her room was on the second floor. One day, she showed me the long red scratches on her arm. "They're getting bolder, Alex," she whispered, her eyes wide with terror. "Something is wrong in this town. Something you woke up." I wanted to tell her she was crazy, but I knew she was right. I'd opened a door and now things were crawling through. I became obsessed with the book. I spent every waking moment studying its pages, looking for answers, looking for a way to control what I had unleashed. But the book offered no solutions. It only offered more power. Spells to command the shadows, spells to speak with the whispering voices. The more I read, the more the magic changed me. My eyes had dark circles under them. I was always cold. I stopped talking to my parents. The book was my only friend now. It whispered promises of strength, of control. It told me that fear was for the weak, and I was not weak. Not anymore. One evening, Sarah didn't come home. Her parents were frantic. They called everyone in the village, their voices shaking with panic. A search party was formed. Men with flashlights and grim faces walked the foggy streets, calling her name. Her name echoed through the mist, but the only reply was the mournful wind, I knew. Deep down in my cold, churning stomach, I knew this was my fault. The spirits I had awakened, the walking shadows I'd given form to, they had taken her. Guilt hit me like a physical blow, so strong it almost knocked me off my feet. I ran to my room and tore the book from its hiding place. Its leather cover felt cold and clammy.